What's up and welcome to Idle Insights, the show where each week I, Treavor Bettis, talk to interesting people about Idle Champions and Dungeons and Dragons. And with me this week is a black screen that is soonly going to fade into
I was being dramatic. Hi, hello,
a Mr. B. Dave Walters.
Enemy. Did we figure out this is my ninth time doing
Ninth time total on this show.
9 times.
Yep.
People that are of a certain age, you know what I mean when I say 9 times. It's a Ferris Bueller's Day Off reference.
Oh, see, in my head, I go to Defending Your Life.
Yeah.
How many days looking at? 9 days. Ooh. Yeah, B-Dave, I mean, if somehow, some way, people in the chat don't know who you are you for those fine folks?
It is I, B. Dave Walters. I'm friend to the statistical majority of all mankind. You can find me wherever fine streaming content can be located. Was the Dungeon Master of the Black Dice Society. Played freely the Lucky Halfling in a number of D&D streams, who is also a champion that you should make sure you have in your formation, because he'll make your life better. Been on Dimension 20 and pretty much anything else that you can think of.
Once if this is your first time seeing B-Dave and you watch internet stuff, you are just going to start seeing him everywhere.
Like, I am Schrodinger's B-Dave. I ran into that the other day. I was on a stream with somebody that didn't know who I was, and part of it I was like, really? Okay, great. Well, nice to meet you.
I still think my favorite one.
Traumatize that person.
I still think my favorite one was watching a Command Zone episode, and they did a bit at the beginning with a vampire ball, and then B-Dave, there he is as the bouncer. I'm just like, literally everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. Yeah, the call is coming from inside the house. Yes, that is 100% true. Yes.
Heck yeah. Oh yeah, you know, Lauren just posted in the chat that we're live, and I will remember to tell you all, we're live right now. I did it. I'm not going to remember to do it next week when it's a recorded episode, but you know what? Right now, we're live.
7-second delay. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, B-Dave, you know, this is your 8th time on with me.
9 times.
You know, I do the icebreaker question. How can I keep coming up with ones for you? But I did.
Yep.
I want to hear about a time that you took something from a movie, book, show, or game and used it in one of your D&D games. That was like, this is either like it was inspired by or just no shame ripped from and put in.
So, dear friends, as you may or may not know, Trevor and I also do a writing podcast with the lovely Erin M. Evans. And one of the things that I say is, I don't read nearly as much fiction as you think I would read, because I find I unconsciously steal things, and it takes a long time to shake it loose. You know, like if I read, you know, when I realized this about myself in the late 90s, William Shatner wrote a Star Trek book, and it was about the Borg and the Romulans working together, and of course it was, because Shatner's crazy and over the top. In every story I came up with for like the next 6 months was like zombie robots. And I didn't even have this in my own mind.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, ooh, but what if they were techno zombies? And I was like, wait a second, hang on. I just read it. Oh, that's what that is, you know? So the short answer is I probably do it more than I think all the time. That's
fair.
What I will say is one of my favorite literary conceits, such as it is the good character who goes bad for the best intentions, like Anakin Skywalker, like Arthas Menethil. I wrote an official D&D comic book called Dungeons and Dragons: A Darkened Wish.
We'll talk about that more later.
We did well. There you go. I will say I have leaned on that concept a lot.
That's fair.
Like a lot. Because I like that story. I like those characters. I like every time that story gets told, whether the hero figures it out and sort of pulls up, or if they just like write it to the bottom. I enjoy that a lot.
That's fair. Yeah. I definitely do this with my games though, where I'm just like, ooh, I really like that. I'm just gonna take that and put it there and put a little D&D cover over it. Though one that I know I've talked about quite a bit is just stealing stuff from Chris Perkins' old games, or I'm just like, oh, I need to do a thing in my upcoming game. I really like what Perkins did there. I'm just gonna take that.
He doesn't remember. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're here today to talk about the lovely Aeon. You can see no and also right here.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, I think it's that way. Look at that pro.
Yeah.
She rotate that thumb some more. There she is. I'm putting my thumb in Deuce's mouth. There you go, buddy. Yum.
She's one of the newest champions to come to Idle Champions. Tell me about Aeon.
So we started development on Aeon like last year, like early last year, because we don't want to give away too much of how the sausage is made, but that's all right. The good people at Idle Champions had started creating some original characters that were original for the game, that weren't just like stream adapted, that they were native to Idle Champions. And I honestly don't remember if this was part of the plan or if I brought it up because I know what I'm like. But I was like, you need some original bad guys. That's what you need. You know, you need some original villains. So I got contracted to create a villain like last year. And don't be fooled by her pretty face. It is a facade. Aeon is a villain. Which I loved doing that. I loved being able to play with people's expectations. I love the fact that she doesn't look like Vecna. She is like smiling and friendly. And she is using and manipulating you. The touchstone that I gave at every step of the development was Irene Adler from Sherlock Holmes, which I learned very early either was completely obvious and made sense to the person, or they had no idea what I was talking about. That she is just a string pulling puppet master, and she is a Goliath. That was another thing. I know we'll probably get a little bit into the development, but it's like I both wanted her to be a person of color, but I also wanted to make it so clear. Sorry, I got a hair in my mouth.
That's
a problem. It's a problem with the beard. Yeah. It's like my snack tray here. That I wanted it to be clear that she was a person of color, but also clear that she's not human. Which I think we got there. Yeah. You should see some of the color palettes we went through over time that I was like, because the artists at Idle Champions are wonderful. I'm glad I finally got the vanity art. I never got it for Freely because they started doing that after Freely came along. Yeah. Which I vaguely alluded to more than once. I'm like, man, I never got any art for Freely. You know, he's been glitched out twice. Like I've just accepted it's not in the cards for my lucky boy. So I'm glad I got it for her. But the first character they drew was this beautiful black woman. She's wonderful, right? I'm like, yes, she's gorgeous. That's just not who this is. She's a Goliath. So, but like I said, I think we got there. And,
I love where we ended up with Aeon, and because it was in the design call with you originally when we were talking about her, and I do feel like from like what I heard from you that we ended up with pretty much exactly at the end what you were going for.
Well, again, not to tell too much of how the sausage is made, but two things happened. Again, there was a character in a video game that I was playing that had just came out, who the character in the game shall remain nameless. So I kind of had a vaguely steampunk vibe on the brain. But in describing what I wanted, it turns out I was describing almost word for word what Mark Hulmes had described that Mark wanted.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But an interesting thing about this character is I never meant for her to be sexualized is the word that comes to mind. It's not the best word, but I wasn't trying to make her hot. Like, never did I want to make her hot. Where I know for sure Mark was aiming at making his character hot. No problem with that. I've made plenty of hot characters.
Yeah.
But I was like, I want this. And V was like, that's what Mark said. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want what Mark wants. I want this. I'm like, I want it to look like this person. And she was like, he literally gave that person. And I'm like, but But again, we got there.
Yeah.
I wanted her to be small for a Goliath, so I think we came down that she's like 6'7". I don't remember. I think or she's like 7'2".
Yeah, she is still tall, but she's short for a Goliath.
Yeah, she's small for a Goliath, which is for longtime fans of the show, I did on purpose because Freely's tall for a halfling.
Mm-hmm.
So Aeon is small for a Goliath.
Yeah, Aeon's a Goliath and still shorter than you.
Yeah. I really need to check that out, and I apologize, you all. You would think I would know this off the top of my head, but again, this is last year that some of those decisions were made of like exactly how tall she is.
Oh,
so
you know what's funny?
She's somewhere between 6'7" and 7'2", but she was like the bottom end of the Goliath scale. I remember I wanted.
It's so funny you say that because of working on everything. I have that design call still bookmarked. But I don't know if we got an exact height back then.
Well, some of it was Schrodinger's height, but now that Luke has drawn those comics, like she's that size, you know what I mean? Like whatever you see is that's what she is now.
There was several times where we were doing things where we're like, no, she needs to be taller than Umberto. I really do love what you came into with this because the idea for a villain. And I do think I remember that being your idea. I do believe I remember Dylan saying like, B-Dave wants to make a villain. I went, of course he does. That's perfect.
Dun, dun,
dun. And so doing the villain route, but also balancing the like, this is gonna be a champion, we're doing a story about and everything, and so like having that nice balance between she is a villain, but also one that you want to have a perspective story from was a really good tightrope you walked there.
Well, it's again a speech that I'm always giving is that the villain is the hero of their story.
Mm-hmm.
And the best villains are making a lot of sense when they start explaining, their thing and why they're doing what they're doing. The viewer / reader should be like, well, yeah, I mean, all right, Magneto's making a lot of sense right now, Charles. I don't know, dude. And so I wanted, like, if I had to nail down her alignment, believe it or not, I would put her lawful neutral. Because it's not a maliciousness in why she's doing what she's doing. Again, she is one of my inspirations for her was Varys from Game of Thrones, which something that is a big deal in the books that I think they alluded to at least once in the show, but it was less of a big deal, is he had his little birds, which were orphan children.
Yep.
And he taught these children to read, which was unusual. And then he'd have them break into people's homes. They literally would like climb down chimneys and stuff and just read all of their papers and leave. And that was how Varys was getting people's secrets. And nobody ever suspected, like, how could he possibly know these things? And that was how. And so having a character who just was collecting information. Now, what I got to say is one of the most brilliant parts of it, the sending stones that the Kinku were listening to as the recording device, that was all Treavor Bettis there. He came to me, he's like, I got an idea. I think we should do this. I'm like, that is objectively brilliant. That is so much better. Because
you had the sending stones in the music box and stuff. And when I was trying to come up with the story and everything, I was like, well, if she hears it, it's just hearsay anytime she tells anyone. How do I do a recording in the Forgotten Realms?
Brava.
Thank you. I appreciate
it. She creates these like clockwork curios that she hides the sending stones in to spy on people. But having a network of Kinkus that were constantly recording, I'm like, that is incredible. Yes. That was 100% Bettis there.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, actually, I did want to talk a bit about story and stuff as far with Aeon, because one of the things that you talk about on the writing show, and for folks that don't know, it's writing about dragons and shit. It's very real
podcast.
Yeah. Is one of the things that you talk about is that like when you get to the point where like you have the character, you kind of know instinctively all about them.
Mhm.
And so I had three questions here that it wasn't stuff that I found to be like I was going to pull on for the story, but it is stuff that I'm curious about from Aeon having written her.
Mhm.
What made Aeon want to become a spy?
So yes, I do say that my characters are born like Athena. They tend to pop into my brain full grown and fully armored.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I wanted someone who was always on the outs and never fit in, but use that as a strength.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that didn't become the emo kid that was just like at war with the world. Was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Like her thing was like she's smaller than the other Goliaths, but she's smarter than them. So she's gonna start using that from the beginning. They think they can overlook me because again, they're all 8'5" or whatever, and I'm not, right? So I'm gonna use that to start manipulating them from when she was little. And then she comes into the world with the other races, but she's way bigger than them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That it's like, oh, you're this giant thing. You now must not be very smart.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you know? And her whole thing was misdirection. That's why she was a bard artificer, you know, a bardificer.
Mm-hmm.
Even though mechanically, if you were actually trying to stat out that character, that's not the best combination. But practically, again, somebody that is trying to get you to take this thing into your home and not think about it again, to put it somewhere in a place of prominence, and you know have no further questions.
Mm-hmm.
It just made sense.
Yeah.
But that at the core of it, it was somebody that everyone dismisses that turns that on you. You know, because everything about her is a misdirection.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that she does have such high charisma and she is beautiful, you know what I mean, and that she is friendly. Like you would never think that, like, again, she's this spy master
Mm-hmm.
that will buy and sell everything about you, you know, and sleep like a baby that night. That is also the reason why all of her assistants and things are all clockworks, because she didn't trust anybody.
Mm-hmm.
She only trusts her creations. That's why Deuce, her monkey there, named Deuce, because he's her second in command, by the way. Yeah, you know, there's all those little things that I tried to integrate into it.
Yeah. So why did she choose Waterdeep?
It is the fantasy New York. It's where the most people come and go. I thought, like, there was once, I've heard this, I don't know if it's true, but it's probably true,
Mm-hmm.
that at the height of the Library of Alexandria, part of the reason why they had so many books is it was a requirement that anytime a ship docked in Alexandria, they had to let the scribes come aboard and copy everything they had.
Oh, wow.
I mean, on the one hand, I say
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true,
Yeah.
because you know that's a long time you got to
Yeah.
stay in port now. But on the other hand, it was the library that had everything.
Well,
So, like,
someone in chat said they've heard that as well.
yeah. So hey, maybe, you know, maybe. For the record, I'd named my oldest daughter Alexandria after a library. So that is my commitment to the bit there.
Hell yeah.
But this idea that people could be coming and going from anywhere, and she could be hearing what they were doing from anywhere. Because I think my first idea about her was it was a bar that had these clockworks that was almost like a freaking Chuck E. Cheese. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That you could come and order a pint and like robots were bringing you the stuff, and like they might be like performing or something. You know what I mean? Like she essentially had built like one step shy of sentient Warforged that were the attraction.
Yeah.
And then just sort of as the story evolved, it's like, well, the machines became the attraction.
Five
but it
Nights
was
at Aeon. Someone
except Five Nights at Aeon's, exactly. But it's literally, if you go in the basement, like, you know, it's got a claptrap for you.
well done, lurking writer, for that one.
But to say, I could get Lily to do a crossover. I could do it. I know I can. But that was kind of the idea, that she's luring people in. That was a big part of, like, when you asked me where would she be located, I was like the North Ward.
Yeah.
Like near the rich people, but not in their area, but also like her establishment is not around the bars and the dregs and everything. Like she's fishing where they're biting type thing. Because again, if you got somebody who is only here for the day from Mintarn, but gets lost in his cups and says a little too much type thing, or again takes one of your things home with him, then now you got ears everywhere. So yeah, that was the idea there.
Love it. What is her ultimate goal? Like when do you feel like Aeon would feel like she's done enough? Like going, further past what we have here.
Well, she's not Vecna. She has no ambition of like ruling the plains, right? Or I think if she had fingers in pies up and down the Sword Coast, it'd be hard to get plainer. I mean, I think like as far as like if she had like ears and eyes on the Rock of Brawl or something like that, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And I think if she was known
literally shooting for the stars.
Literally. I think if she was known far and wide as the person that either had the information or could get it. But I think by the exact same token, and this is where you get a little bit of a catch-22, that I think if everybody knows she's the one who knows, then suddenly everybody's your enemy.
Yeah.
And then that's bad too.
Yeah.
So you got to walk that line of you want to do business with me, but don't feel the need to eradicate me as a threat. Like I'm more useful to you alive. And I think you can only get so big. And I think she's smart enough to realize that.
Yeah. That was kind of the point that I put her at in the story, because I knew I wanted to have the Jentarum and the Xanathar Guild, but she needed to not be a threat to both of them, but be someone that they could get information from. Yeah.
Yep.
I
Be
like
my thought.
Okay, well, still going in this this direction of story and everything, you mentioned A Darkened Wish earlier, and I want to talk a bit about that because, we had the story promo, and I'm bad about talking about stuff that I do and everything, but I should promote it because it was for the company that we did, but we did Peril at the Greenhow, which was the story for Aeon and Umberto that is up on the Isle Champions blog.
The story of the Almighty Denethor. Do not leave out the Almighty Denethor from the story.
I have to tell you, the best note that I got before that story was out was Dylan that just said, I couldn't not read this in B-Dave's voice.
The Almighty Denethor's voice. It was not this B-Dave's voice. Of course, there's only one way to interpret the magnificence of the Almighty Denethor, yes. Which, of course, you captured. There's no reason not to.
But yeah, I wanted to talk about Darkened Wish because, that was a comic that you wrote that was set in the Forgotten Realms and everything like that. So one of the things I wanted to ask was, like, when you were writing it, how often did game mechanics like stand out in your mind while you were going through
every time? 100% of the time. I knew, even though I don't say it on the page, I knew specifically what spell they were casting every time.
Yeah.
I knew how many times they could do it. So if they only she's a level, Helene, the main character, is a level 20 wizard. She casts Meteor Swarm, which I check. She casts Time Stop at a different point, but I mean, I literally was keeping track of their spell slots of what of what everyone was doing, and it doesn't say it on the page. Yeah, but it was what it was supposed to be. And I did that with all of them. The rogue only manages to backstab when someone else is flanking and all this other stuff that it's like Tess and I worked at in real intricate granular detail. But hopefully when you just read it, it just looks like, cool explosions and flashes and stuff are going off. Yeah. On the page. And it's funny because even dealing with WotC about it, they were cool about it. I definitely pushed it, like sort of rule of cool type thing. Like at one point, the twins, Karin and Karen, opened two gates, and the fighter jumps through the gate, cuts somebody's head off, and goes through the other gate. And I'm like, come on. That's just cool. Come on. You know, nowhere is it written that that's not a thing, especially
Yeah.
if he comes through and crits with a Vorpal sword. So I'm like, you're welcome. It's a visual medium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was because like that, you know, I've talked with you and Aaron and several other writers that have written stuff in Forgotten Realms, but like it really wasn't until like that moment that I had Umberto cast Jump on himself that I went, oh, I need to like really get this down. And like I
Mhm.
going on D&D Beyond and reading everything about it and all of that and seeing how to narratively tell someone casting a spell.
Mhm.
um that was I think definitely the spells were the time that it really stood out in my head the most with it. Were like other things in my head I was like there's like one in the first part where Aeon's talking to Harlow and I'm like, this is a deception check, this is a, you know, and I'm not keeping track of it quite in my head, but like as I'm writing it I knew where as a GM I would have called for things and stuff like that.
Something wild you can do, and I keep putting in the back of my head that I want to do it someday, and I haven't yet, is telling a story where you roll you like as you're writing, you literally
Yep.
roll the dice and see
Yep.
of like, you know, what works and what doesn't work and everything. I think the hard part is it could get very like crunchy and bogged down. Like he hits, he misses, he misses, he hits. You know what I mean? But in at least in broad strokes, you could get some very interesting situations because again, the dice have their own story to tell.
Yeah.
Of like when the narrative seems to be pointing one direction and it goes somewhere completely different because that's what the dice say happen. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be fun.
Yeah, I think in that situation, especially with fights, you'd have to like kind of play it out yourself a few turns,
Mm-hmm.
and then go, okay, I'm gonna write down that part, and then go
Yeah.
back to it. Yeah, I've thought of stuff like that too. That would just be fun little exercise.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
But were there like you mentioned like the backstab and stuff like that. So like
Mhm.
when you were going at this, because you had a longer form story to tell there and everything.
Mhm.
Like so you know, for these classes and everything, like you were trying to find the ways to like pull in those iconic things from the classes to put in there.
Yeah. Now with this, you got to remember, I wrote this in 2018,
Mm-hmm.
so I was trying to get across both that all of the classes are cool because I had a fighter, two clerics, a wizard, a rogue, and a bard, right? And a monk. Couldn't leave out any of my babies. And I got to tell the story where you got to see them when they were young, and you get to see them at their older, at the height of their power.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I wanted to get across was just the cataclysmic destructive power of a wizard.
Yeah.
Especially like in the early days, she doesn't have that. Like they have to save her repeatedly, which
Mm-hmm.
was really kind of a flashback to the old second edition days where you're a wizard with 1d4 hit points and a spell. And there is no healing or resurrection magic. Like you're coming up the rough side of the mountain,
Mm-hmm.
and then one day you get fireball, and all bets are off, right? So I wanted to show the same person who is like repeatedly has to be saved from bandits at the beginning is wiping out whole armies
Mm-hmm.
at the end. Because she's like, that's a nice encroaching force you've got there. It'd be a real shame if it got meteor swarmed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because I think people lose track of what that spell would actually do to a battlefield. So I want to show it.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah. No, that was there were a few things that in the Peril in the Greenhow that definitely came up. Like during the big fight, Aeon's just in the back the entire time. No, I'm not trying to hold up my hand, Zoom. Stop that. And you know, she's just in the back, like sending in Deuce to do stuff and using her cane and whatnot, because like if I had her go in and do some kind of like artificer thing, it wouldn't have felt as to the class as what it was.
She doesn't get dirty. And there's a reason why I gave her a particle rifle cane, because again, it's all messing with your expectations.
Yep.
You see her walking with this cool stick, and then she's like, blammo. And you're like, what? Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I did want to ask on this topic as well, though, is like, did you find that there were like any difficulties in writing in a TTRPG world, or because you have this extensive knowledge of like, especially D&D and stuff, like it just kind of made things a little bit easier when writing it?
So whenever you're writing tie-in fiction, in some companies are more or less precious about this, because I've been fortunate to do it now with Marvel, to do it with D&D, in some other brands. You there's always constraints on how much you can do within their sandbox.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why Dark and Wish was set in Mintarn, and in the Moonshae Isles, was I knew from the very beginning they wouldn't let me destroy Waterdeep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, the only way they would let me destroy Waterdeep is if it got fixed by the end or something. You know? So I wanted a place that I could scuff up some with fewer repercussions or obstacles. Do we need to make an announcement there?
Yeah, we do.
Yes, please.
Real quick for folks in the chat, we're going to be doing the giveaway here in a few moments. Mars is going to put a keyword into chat. Just put that back into the chat as it is, and you'll be entered for a chance to win 42 chests of your choice, excluding Bahamut chests. You can get 42 Aeon chests if you would like, and fully gear up as much as you can this awesome new Bartificer.
Look at a little monkey.
Yeah.
So what I didn't know at the time, because I do have an encyclopedic knowledge of the lore of this world, but even what I didn't know was the Moonshae Isles was the setting of the very first Forgotten Realms story. So much so, the novel was written before the realms were a thing, and TSR acquired it and dropped it into the Forgotten Realms, Dark Walker on Moonshae. So I set out to write this love letter to D&D and add kind of a link to the chain of continuity. And what I ended up doing was going back and getting characters and situations from like the oldest stories, the first story, and like nodding to those things. So there's several deep cuts throughout that story to the very first Forgotten Realms story. And because there were things like Mintarn getting destroyed by Hundar, and then Skartarak, the other red dragon, and all that stuff, because I already had these like terrible chaotic things that happened, I kind of just got to tell the story in light of that. And I was looking at it more like, this dragon attack like a kaiju attack. Like, what would it be like if you're actually on the ground? And the answer is bad. That's what it would be like. It would be bad if a red dragon is like, I've decided I don't want you to be here anymore. Like we're so used to consuming the content where the six of you are like, no, we're gonna stop the dragon, and I'm like, are you though? You sure? Like,
I
don't know, dude. So being able to tell it from that side was important. And then I knew I wanted to have these big battles and all of this stuff, and I needed to put it somewhere where, again, if it were Neverwinter, if it were Baldur's Gate, there was gonna be some real constraints on what I could do. And there were still constraints even in Moonshae. It's like there was just less emotional investment in those constraints. So me being like, I'm gonna put a castle on this tip of the island, it was like, all right, Whereas if I was like, I'm gonna put another fortress in the middle of the North Ward, they were like, you're not though. So,
Well, that was a funny one that I ran into of like the little minute details that I ended up finding out and being like, oh, I have to go back and change a bunch of wording because of this. Like one of them was, there's a captain of Waterdeep, but they don't use the word captain in Waterdeep. They use Omar. I don't know how to actually pronounce it. I wrote it all the time and I don't know how to pronounce it. But like because of that, I had to go back and change those ones and then put in a thing like that. This means captain here. Aaron suggested at one point of mentioning a walking statue that to kind of solidify that you're in Waterdeep. But there's no walking statue in the North Ward.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, it's
Mhm.
it's an interesting sandbox. I think is really the thing where it's like you have things that are already in that sandbox that they have to stay there, but you can put new things in there.
Well, and they're intentionally vague about it. Like there's most of Faerun has never been described, and big chunks of the Sword Coast still haven't, and that's intentional because that's where you put your stuff. But what I knew from the very beginning, and when I was even tasked to write this story, that I was like, I could pick a mountain range over there, and some dude would be in the comments like, actually, in the 1983 module Chaos at Goblin Crossing, we have established that there is a hobgoblin stronghold there, and I was like, bro,
Yeah.
So some people are very passionate about that.
It's true.
I mean, we did a show of almost 100 episodes talking about
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So
yeah, no, I'm sure there's even stuff that I put in this that someone was just like, that's not actually how that works. I'm like, okay.
it is now.
It is.
I mean, in one of the earliest D&D stories I told, it was on a stream, I mentioned the walking statues walking around, but they don't actually. They're currently like powered down. And somebody was like, so does that mean this and this and this? I'm like, man, it said a walking statue and I described it as walking. That's what it meant. I wasn't trying to make any like broader statement. Yeah.
And that's fair.
They should be like formerly walking statues.
Yeah.
Currently
the statues who formerly walked.
Idle statues. That's
idle statues.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. All right. Well, we actually got quite a few questions while we've been talking. Chat, if you have any more questions, you can put them into chat with question colon and then your question, and our awesome mod will grab it. And
I'm pointing at chat, I think.
Oh, you know what? Before I do that, because Lauren has it prepped, Aeon's got a really cool skin that I want to talk about real quick. So if people got any questions, they can put it in there. Yeah, tell me about this this kick-ass skin that you got.
So that's Spy Master Aeon. That's when she's actually got to go out. Like I said, she doesn't like to get her hands dirty, but sometimes she has to. So sometimes she's the one who's got to slip through the window and look something up, or make sure that somebody stops talking. I'm really happy with how this came out. For those of you anime fans, deep cut. The touchstone for this was Major Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell. The same thing. I wanted her to look capable, but again, not overly sexualized. That's why I didn't want to like do the like corset thing and everything, which again, that is fine for some characters. I have designed those characters and I will again, but that's just not what I was after with this one.
Yeah.
Same thing. We went through multiple iterations of this, and I was very happy with how it turned out. And she's got her little pseudo dragon that's there with her.
Yeah. And I can't say what, but I got to put some notes in on a skin that's coming out next week. And one of the notes that you had on Aeon for one of the inspirations, because you had the Major and then Solid Snake.
Yep.
And that one I was like, I'm gonna jump off of that one on this as well.
Yep. The Major and Solid Snake. Those are the touchstones. Like she should look like somebody who is actually gonna like come through an air conditioning chute, even though she's big. But she can cast Shrink. You don't know her.
Yeah. You know. All right, let's check in with what chat had going on.
Hi, chat.
This is from Fuel Zero Ops. I'm gonna go with that question. Lord, what is the player move that has you punching the air and silently screaming yes? So like what I'm gonna say, like if you're a GM and a player does something, is there kind of one that you've seen multiple times that no matter what you're like yes?
I can tell you the last time I was truly overjoyed with something was I'm fortunate to get to do like D&D in a Castle and all of these events. If you want to come and play with me, check out dndinacastle.com. There's still a couple seats in Ohio in August, and I think England in November. I think everything else is sold out. In fact, I'm leaving tomorrow to go to the castle, the first U.S. castle. And one of the things I do is I usually have a custom story that I kind of tell that whole year, usually. And the story from 2 years ago ended up with 3 different individuals. And I'm not going to say who they are because I never know if I'll use some of my own conceits again. But you had 3 very different ways you could go. You could side with the sister, you could side with the brother, or you could side with the younger brother. And I had a group of 6 people, and it was evenly split down the middle, 2, 2, and 2.
Oh wow!
And I was like, perfect, perfect. This is perfect, because I was so excited because it meant that I had done a good job of making the case for each of why you should do it. Because I think a lot of times there's there's kind of just an assumption in a lot of these games that we'll never help the bad guy, and I'm like, you sure they're bad? Last year's game, I had a similar situation where by the end, you had the choice to either bring someone back or replace them. And the way I had everybody do it, at the table, I physically had everybody close their eyes and just give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you wanted to bring them back, it was thumbs up. If you did not want to bring them back, it was thumbs down. And the reason why I had everybody close their eyes is that the nature of these situations is if everybody knew the first person that answered, everybody would have done it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That you're like, oh, that's what the group's doing now. And I'm like, no. I want to know what you want.
Yeah.
And again, it ended up in some wild situations of like husbands and wives choosing differently, like the table wanting one thing or the split table. And it was great.
Yeah.
It was great. Because I'm like, I'm a yes and anything.
Yeah.
And I don't introduce circumstances that I'm not prepared to deal with.
There's a very particular Idol Champions Presents episode that shows that.
Yeah. Wait, which one are you referring to?
Todd throwing Todd throwing the portable hole in the bag of holding.
Buddy, man, when Todd put the portable hole inside the portable hole that we all know you're not supposed to do, but we don't know why. So I was like, we got to go to break. I'm like, we're like an hour into the show. We got to go to break. I need a minute to figure out what happens here. But yes, absolutely yes.
Yeah. Samuel K. Kaufman says, question, how do you get contracted to write Forgotten Realm stories?
Oh, man, it's... Here's what I will tell you. It helps if those people know who you are and they know what you do.
Yep.
It is largely relationship driven, but again, it is not just because people say it's like, oh, it's who you know, like it's this lazy thing that is an excuse. It's not that. Mm-hmm. They've got to know that you do a thing and you're legit at that thing.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter if you're the writer, if you're the guy that details cars, or you're the person that makes cakes, or you do a great job at mowing lawns, and then somebody needs their lawn mowed, they're going to be like, oh, I remember. Cindy does great lawn work. She's amazing at landscaping, and you'll have top of mind awareness.
Yep.
So make stuff. Put stuff out so that people know the stuff you make. Yeah. And that's the best way to get on somebody's radar. The reality is there is no one path. And a lot of times when people ask me about breaking into writing, breaking into streaming, a lot of the stuff that I did can't be duplicated. A lot of the paths that I took no longer exist.
Yeah.
But people knowing who you are and knowing that you're legit is the shortest route. Doesn't guarantee anything, but yeah.
100%. All right, Lurking Writer has 3 questions in one here.
My body's ready.
Oh no, he's making me read nice things about myself.
Yeah, send it to me. I'll read nice things
No,
about
it's
you.
fine.
Mhm.
Question number 1. Trevor, Peril at the Green, how was brilliant. Thank you. Did you have as much fun writing it as we did reading it? I hope so. I had an absolute blast putting that together and getting that done. It towards the end of it, it was I will admit big panic modes of like, oh god, this is really the first time people are gonna, a large group of people are gonna see like my prose writing. Oh, okay, no, chill. Okay.
Mhm.
So yeah, but I loved getting to do that. 2, did you consult with B Dave and Gail Simone about Aeon and Umberto during the writing process? So one of the really handy things was I have B Dave's number, so yes, I could just text him and and be like, where's Aeon's tavern at, and like the stuff like that. Gail Simone is a very very busy person because she's
Gail Simone.
I have to say, like, if you all don't know who Gail Simone is, please go look her up, because odds are you have read something that she has done, or something exists that you love because of her. Like, she is very prolific, and so I got to
and a top flight Twitter troll. Just
oh my god, yeah, her Twitter game's on point. But yeah, like, so like it would have to be like, I'd get a list of questions together, send them to V, our partner manager, and she would get in touch with Gail, and when Gail had time, she'd get back to me. So like there was definitely a few things that I asked her here and there about that. Like one of them specifically that I remember was the mentor that shows up in the very beginning of the story. I needed to know a name for them. I didn't feel right making up the name for that, so I had V reach out, and she got back to me with a name. Also, Cassius, you're too kind. Cassius said more Trevor prose, please.
All the Trevor pros.
Yes. 3, B Dave, what do you think of how Trevor interpreted your character?
Great. Like I said, everything Trevor added to it made it more betterer. It's fantastic.
Well, thank you. And Lurking Writer, you making me read nice things, and but he does have one extra one in here that says, query, so is Aeon's stage name Misdirection?
I feel like she would build like a burlesque construct named Misdirection with a lot of vibrating components.
No, it's the one from Futurama that just has like the waist that goes around the gear. Then Cassius 335 says, question, how many of B Dave's recent self-rejected pitches have involved the phrase "I am not a bear"? I don't understand this one. Yeah.
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, Cassius, if you got an explanation on that one, put in the thing.
Yeah.
And then
whatever the funnier response is, of all of them or none of them. A sliding scale.
Then we got Hakachuk that says, question, any plans on putting in the Boulder Shoulder brothers, especially Pickle, the Druid, and or Catterley? Do you know who this is?
Nope. But I like the idea of Boulder Shoulder brothers.
I'm gonna Google this. Who are the Boulder Shoulder? That is just a great name.
It's me and Jesse, isn't it?
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. This is other Forgotten Realms lore stuff that I am terrible on. I think it's Driss stuff. There we go. I mean, here's
a lot of Driss stuff.
When it comes to Forgotten Realms lore and stuff like that, like, we do a lot of champions and stuff that are original or content creators or anything like that. But I will say, never count out the lore characters. They could show up at any time. Garwar says they also appear later in the Legends of Drizzt. Oh, okay. From the Cleric Quintet stories. Okay. Cool. Well, that's fun. But we are at our time, and we got another show coming up after this. B Dave, if people want to find you and what you do on the interwebs, where could they do so?
You know, ironically enough, I was just talking to somebody because I'm going to be going to Australia to be doing some stuff, and they were trying to figure out when we could talk, and they were like, "Oh, I'll talk when it's wrapped up." I'm like, "I'll be done in 10 minutes," and then you're like, "Let's get out of here," and I'm like, "I'm gonna be done in like one." You can find me all over the interwebs, over fine streaming content can be located. I'm at B Dave Walters or I'm still most active on the steaming trash pile that is Twitter. And yeah, you have questions about anything, my DMs are open. Hit me up anytime. And of course, you can find me all the time saying words with Trevor and Aaron wherever you get your podcasts.
Heck yeah. Be sure to pick up Aeon, available right now during Founders Day. You can get some cool new outfit for her, and have Deuce shooting laser beams at people, which I still just absolutely love.
You never get tired of shooting laser beams.
Yeah. But yeah, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Idle Insight. So until next week, take care of yourself.